Good afternoon and welcome to our regular council meeting for November 18th, 2024. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional territories and the oral practices of the Blackfoot Nation, which include the Siksika, the Kainai, and Bakani. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation District 4, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. We're making this acknowledgement to demonstrate our continuing efforts to work together as we strive for reconciliation through increased and collective learning. Just before I get to you, I just want to mention a few things too. The City of Brooks received a lot of positive accolades for the Painted Veterans Crosswalk, and staff took this initiative, ran with it, and I just wanted to thank the staff for doing that. It was really positive for the community there too. And also at this time too, I want to thank and I want to send kudos to the Development and Planning Department and Economic Development. There's been some nice announcements lately in the community, including that 118 unit facility, which includes, I think, 112 apartments. And, you know, you add this to the 41 unit apartment building across the street, the 60 units that are at the west end. Now, I know some of these numbers aren't exact, and the 165 Willings of Brooks project development is taking place in the town, so kudos to the Planning and Development Department and Economic Development too. Myself and a few other councillors were at the shawarma opening last week. I just want to point out here, I admire anyone who puts their own money into a business in the community here. These small businesses are so important and vital for our community here too. And myself and Councillor Goodenough attended the kickoff to the JBS Foods and Wendy's event last Friday. JBS Foods is providing the hamburger patties for all the Wendy's in Western Canada. JBS made this big announcement last June. To me, a big commitment to the plant and to the community. JBS, by the way, now employs 3,000 workers, and talking with one of the officials from JBS, they pointed out that their staff has, and maybe Councillor Goodenough can correct me, I thought he said 5,400, but it might have been 5,700 children that you know, are in our education system or would eventually be in our education system in Brooks here. And as I said Friday at the event there, this was good news for the plant, for Wendy's, and for the Canadian cattle industry there too. So just a number of positive events for the community there. So I'd just like to acknowledge that there too. Now, the Manager of Recreation Services, Randy McPhillips.
Thank you and good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce you Peter Beauregard. Behind me here, he's our recreation operator level 1. He started with us actually back in September 23rd, so he's pretty much a seasoned veteran with us now, but has just not worked a Monday council, so we finally were able to bring him in. He was most recently the water coordinator with the St. Mary River Irrigation District, has some water and wastewater treatment experience with Fox Creek in the city of Lethbridge, and has about 8 years of arena operations experience with the town of Pincher Creek. So he has lots of arena ice making experience, loves working in the facilities and working and interacting with people, and is currently teaching his kids and his 2 foster kids how to fish.
Welcome to the City of Brooks there. Yeah. We have the best hockey team in the world in this community here, junior team. They are, yeah, they are. Okay, need a mover for this motion here, that the agenda be adopted. Moved by Councillor Idris. All those in favor? Carried. I need a motion for the motion that the minutes from the regular council meeting held November 4th, 2024 be approved. Councillor Nesbitt. All those in favor? Carried. I need a motion here that the October 2024 RCMP report be accepted as information. Councillor Jessica. Good afternoon. You guys have been busy here the last couple days.
We have. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Your Worship, for having us. I'm going to first start off by introducing my friend here, Jessie Kirchner, and she is a new addition to our team here in Brooks, and I'll let you explain what your role is going to be.
Hello, my name is Jessie, and I work for the Sonari Center. The Sonari Center is located in Medicine Hat, but it services southern Alberta in this area. And so they have created a position now where I work and I live and work in the community, and I am a specialized criminal justice navigator. So as a specialized criminal justice navigator, I'm able to work with individuals across the lifespan affected by sexual violence. This can include things such as informing reporting options, police accompaniment, hospital accompaniment, advocacy, court updates, support navigating the criminal justice system, court orientation and preparation, court accompaniment, and resource navigation, as well as warm transfer to any needed services that they might require elsewhere in the community. I also wear a second hat through Sonari with the Child Advocacy Center. I'm able to support youth under the age of 18 and their non-offending caregivers who have been impacted by child abuse. This includes many of the same services as the criminal justice navigator, as well as helping them when they're first going through this beginning of the process. So when the child forensic interviews are taking place, as well as at the detachment. As part of my role, I'm also able to assist with some of the transportation for clients as well within the community, and to the Sonari Center for services that are available there. The Sonari Center also has an education and a clinical program that have things that are available to the community of Brooks and the surrounding areas. And some of that is done in person, some of it's done virtually as well. So.
Welcome to Brooks.
And just to explain a little bit, so part of my role previous to what I'm doing at the moment has been child forensic interviewing. And with that, with the Child Advocacy Center, so there's one in Calgary called the Luna Center, and now Medicine Hat has had the Sonari Center for a couple years. But there's been a real big hindrance with Brooks, as lots of our families aren't able to transport their kids out for different appointments to either of these places or for interviews. So we've done a lot of our child forensic interviews here in Brooks at the detachment. And so part of Jess's role is going to be helping fill the gaps here. So when we are interviewing here, myself and a couple other investigators do those child forensic interviews. There is some prep for the kids, explaining we don't come in uniform, we're in plain clothes. And so she'll help them navigate what that room's going to look like, talk through their fears and talk beforehand. And then afterwards, we'll have the investigation side going on, but she helps families connect to services in our community. And obviously there are some things that are shortages in Brooks. So she's also able to help connect with transportation, taking victims of child abuse crimes and sexual assault in particular out of our community to appointments in other places, which is a huge gap that is being filled by your role. And so we're really excited. We're currently going through her security clearance and stuff to get her in our building, so she's working off site. But this is going to be a huge asset to Brooks. And so just wanted to bring it to your attention so that you know of some of the good work going on. So welcome. Okay, so I'm going to move into the Brooks RCMP Detachment Commander's Report for October. So this report contains data and statistics covering the month of October. We've responded to 387 municipal calls for service. A total of 42 prisoners were lodged in the detachment cells. 131 municipal criminal record checks were completed, 19 violation tickets. So a couple of significant events here that are laid out. On October 14th, 2024, Brooks RCMP received a 911 call reporting a break and enter at a residence in Brooks. The homeowner stated he was asleep when he heard someone enter the house. Upon investigation, he found a drunk female sitting on his kitchen floor. It turned out the homeowner had lost his keys earlier in the yard, which allowed the female to enter. Officers promptly arrested her for unlawfully being in a dwelling and held her from there. Next, we have a mischief on October 18th. Brooks RCMP received a report concerning a male attempting to open car doors in the South Shore area. Utilizing the suspect's description provided by the caller, officers located and identified the male as Yoel Bull. Upon searching Bull, officers discovered he was in possession of credit cards belonging to other individuals, which violated his release conditions. Bull was arrested for breaching these conditions. A hearing was conducted, and he was subsequently released with more conditions. Then we have a willful promotion of hatred. On October 20th, 2024, Brooks RCMP were informed by a resident in the Fairview area about packages containing hate literature directed at Jewish individuals being left on driveways. These packages included hateful posters regarding identifiable groups. Witnesses reported seeing 2 individuals dressed in dark clothing distributing the packages between 4 a.m. and 4:30. Officers began canvassing Fairview Ave, collecting all the packets and searching for surveillance footage. The investigation is ongoing. I'd also like to note that we have engaged with hate crimes. We've brought some outside resources in, and we have sent some things away for forensic examination, so we're still awaiting results from that. Unlawful possession. On October 24th, 2024, Brooks RCMP were notified about a male on a bike throwing weapons at cars on the highway just east of Brooks. The RCMP attended and located the male, who was subsequently arrested. Several weapons, including nunchucks, throwing knives, and a large blade, were found in the male's backpack. He was charged with 1 count of unauthorized possession of a weapon and 3 counts of possession contrary to his release order. The male was remanded into custody until his court hearing on October 29th, 2024. Break and enter. On October 24, Brooks RCMP were notified of a break and enter in progress. The officers arrived on scene and located a female inside a residence. The officers found several items on her that did not belong to her, including a tablet, medication, and ID cards. The female was arrested at scene and brought to cells. She has been charged with break and enter, committing theft, and theft under $5,000, and she remained in custody until her court appearance. On October 26th, the RCMP were called to a 2-vehicle collision at the intersection of 2nd Ave and 3rd Street West. Upon arrival, officers learned that a red Ford truck had lost control and struck the front driver's side of a blue Dodge Caravan. The driver of the truck underwent a mandatory alcohol screening and failed. Consequently, the driver received a fine, a 7-day vehicle seizure, and a 30-day license suspension. Another break and enter. On October 30th, the Brooks RCMP responded to a report of a break and enter in progress. Upon arrival, officers found Jan Capco inside the residence. Capco was arrested and charged with break and enter into a dwelling, mischief, and 2 counts of failing to comply with a release order. He was held until his bail hearing, and as of today, we have liaised with CBSA, and he no longer resides in Canada. And that's the end of that.
Okay, any questions? I was just going to ask you, I think there was some vehicle collisions on the Trans-Canada today by
Yeah.
Clooney there. Did you guys have to respond to that? And is the
Yeah.
highway open again now?
So the last I heard, just before I came back in, it wasn't quite open yet. We did send a few officers from Brooks, have been there. There is 1 deceased, and the body had just been removed. So they're currently just waiting to clear some of the wreckage that's on the highway, and it should be open soon.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, good. And a reminder too, I mean, we're Canadians, but it seems when we get that first snowfall and that first ice, we forget how to drive on the road. So,
Absolutely.
and I think our communications department sent out a note today, like, be very careful out there all the time from now until, I guess, until May, I guess. We have
Yes,
to
the
be,
officers
yeah.
that left from Brooks, like, it was pretty dry here when they left.
Yeah.
And they said it wasn't too far towards even Bassano that the roads got really slick. And then it was a white wall of snow, and they just couldn't see. There was squalor all the way out there. Where it happened on the highway, we had multiple transport trucks that are trying to climb that hill
Clooney
there,
Hill.
the Clooney Hill, and couldn't. And then unfortunately, someone lost control, and more information will be forthcoming in the next coming days. But yes, definitely, and a big reminder to our commercial vehicle drivers to be putting their chains on their tires, making sure they're ready for winter conditions. Every year along that Bassano, Gleason, Clooney stop, every year we've got a huge whiteout multiple times throughout the year. So we definitely appreciate the communication from the Brooks City going out as well. That really helps motorists. Had a lot of texts today asking if the highway was opened, and I just appreciate, because people pay attention to your social media pages.
Yeah, okay, good, thanks. Any questions? Councillor Goodenough.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I heard on the news today that there's going to be some RCMP funding for cameras and for body cams. And I'm just curious, have you guys heard much about it, or do you have to apply for that? Or any updates?
Great question. I haven't heard too much. We just got a notification that the body cams are going to be rolled out in the next 18 months. I'm not sure where we fall in Brooks on the list, but they are starting in Alberta, and I don't know, unfortunately, about funding.
Okay. All right. That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Need a mover for this motion here that the following items of correspondence be received as information updates on council conferences and/or workshops, council committee reports, and notes from council committee November 12th, 2024. Need a person to make the motion on that one. Councilor Goodenough there. And since you made the motion, we'll start off with you with your council committee report.
Great, thank you. Lots to report on, and not a lot at the same time. Just a few conferences that we attended with Mr. Parker and Councillor Idris. The RMA conference in Edmonton about 2 weeks ago, and rural municipalities. Very different than the Alberta Munis, a lot more relaxed, and I noticed the engagement was really good. A few of the sessions that we had, just on cutting red tape reduction, again, that seems to be always a conversation for every municipality and rural municipality. But a lot of conversation too around partnership with the cities and working together. And so I just wanted to say that it was great to spend time with our county partners in this area, and I look forward to longer relationships with them and stronger relationships as we grow in the next season. Also attended an economic forum in Medicine Hat. They looked at the economic forecasts for immigration and economics, and on that same day that as they're giving the report, we noticed the change in immigration rules surrounding for Canada. And so Mike Holden, who was the presenter, had to change it on the fly a bit and work within those stats, but it was good. We had Southeastern Alberta Aerospace panel. A lot of people don't realize this, but we do have aerospace here in Southern Alberta, and that's an exciting and exploring opportunity for all of us to be a part of, and part of what I do with Community Futures is funding that, and so it's good to see that program is growing and more interest from across Canada. And we have competitions here, and Albertans are leading the way in the aerospace area. Also, we talked about tourism role in economic development. And as I sit on the tourism board here in town, it's great to see that as Terry was speaking about our role as through economic development, how they work together for tourism. And tourism is one of our biggest industries. And I know we talk about the cattle, we talk about the oil, but tourism is a major part. And one of the things that I think that for the city of Brooks and the county of Newell, we have an opportunity to draw for people all around the world to see what we have. And I look forward to putting some of those practical things into place. Last thing I wanted to mention with the economic forum, and a highlight but kind of a disappointment, was listening to Kevin Shutterbotham from the Medicine Hat College. He gave a great update with the Medicine Hat and everything that they're doing there, but failed to reflect anything towards Brooks. And we have an amazing campus here with opportunity that's untapped. And I think that is something that we as a community really need to be working with the Medicine Hat campus or Medicine Hat College to really to bring forth what we need for our community so that people don't have to be traveling. They can stay here and live here and learn here. So those are some of the things. Joint services, as always. Just wanted to mention we have the New Grow opportunity happening December 6th, and so you can put your applications or apply for that, for funding for that. Doctor retention is always a big conversation, and as we continue to work through that. Silver Sage, AGM's coming up January 15th. Currently with that, we are working on our strategic plan. We have welcomed in the Calgary, a member of the Calgary Stampede organization to work with us at the Silver Sage to grow I think we have 24 to 30 acres of land there, and what we can do to grow that in tourism, but also in the rodeo and continue with that. And we are working very hard actually to try to attract the Midway, bigger Midway for this year for the rodeo. So I know we've heard a lot of feedback how it was smaller. We're working to get that going a lot bigger. So you can come out and learn more about that and get membership for the Silver Sage. MPC, as Mayor Petrie alluded to earlier, we have been busy working to get with our economic development to get housing for the city, and not only that, but businesses. And so that's been an exciting thing to work with. We had MPC training day with Gavin here last week, and just kind of learning the ins and outs, what we can and can't do as an MPC member. Sometimes we think that we can do a lot more than we can. So I'm not saying we got our hands slapped, but it's good to know the rules a little bit better. And as always, just a comment with Community Futures Entrecourt, we're working on our strategic plan to just to continue to fund small businesses, to work with local communities, and to put in policies and procedures to make it easier for these businesses to grow. And that will be my report for today. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Okay, Councillor Idris.
Thank you. Few committees to report on, and actually also touch on some of the events in committees Councillor Goodenough touched on. We were in Edmonton for the RMA, and it was, as Councillor Goodenough said, a very good opportunity to spend time with our partners in the county. We had actually lots of discussions and lots of opportunities to, talk about some of the items that are on our agenda for the next few months. The conference again was lots of learning. I attended a session on council code of ethics in some of the trends that are in the municipalities. And whenever I go to these sessions, I learn a lot, but I also always come out being proud of our council and our partners in the region. Many other councillors, many other regions are having a lot of issues with code of conduct that make you think about the need for that in the work that's happening around that. In terms of committees, Councillor Goodenough touched on joint shared services, and the two things I want to add to what Councillor Goodenough said is we recently elected a new chair. You may know that we alternate chairmanship of the committee between the city and the county, and for the 2024-2025 years it will be with the county. So we elected Councillor Deputy Reeve Kelly as chair of the committee, and we are spending the next couple months also looking at terms of reference for the committee and maybe improving that a little bit. I also sit on the BRZ, and the BRZ in the last couple months actually we're in negotiation and in talks with the Chamber of Commerce, the Southeast Alberta Chamber of Commerce, to form some sort of a partnership where the capacity of the chamber can increase the productivity of the BRZ. The BRZ just recently bought a membership in the chamber, a community builders membership, which is actually the highest level of membership that the Southeast Alberta Chamber have, and we are now in negotiation in terms of maybe having that impact the rate for our business members. So the businesses in the downtown will have a special rate when they join the Chamber of Commerce as members, and also negotiating some support with social media work, because the capacity that the Chamber have in managing social media is something that we can learn from. In terms of events, recently the BRZ did the Halloween. Again, thank you to the Economic Development team for building that map for the Halloween, for the businesses that are part of that. Lots of kids that day. And then this Thursday, we will have the Moonlight Madness and the Christmas in the park, in the parade here in downtown. So I encourage people to attend. From there, I'm going to go to the Chamber. The Chamber had their first trade show. The Southeast Alberta Chamber of Commerce has their first trade show in Brooks since they took over earlier in 2024. the trade show was small, but actually was done very, very well. I heard very, very good feedback from people who participated in terms of the support from the chamber, in terms of the professionality of the look of the relationship that the chamber was able to do and create. In terms of event, I also attended, I think with Mayor Petrie and Councilor Goodenough and the CEO, Mr. Parker. We attended the leadership breakfast in Medicine Hat that the chamber put together, and the mayor spoke at that leadership. It's a breakfast they do every year where all levels of government, federal, provincial, municipal, and even the base come and speak about what's happening in their fields and in what's happening in the next little while. Library, I sit also on the library board, and we recently approved our 2025 budget, so there will be more communication to the city coming with requests. A new initiative that the library is part of is this thing called the scanning pen. You can borrow it from the library, where you can actually, if you don't want to read a book, if you want a pen to read for you, you can just take the pen and just go over the book and just listen to the book. So a different way of audiobooks. You scan it and then it read for you. So it's a new thing for the library. If you want to use it, you can visit the library. The library did a membership drive during the trade show. It actually went very well. A good number of people registered as new members. The board members had to sit in front of the library and encourage people to register for memberships. I sat there, and everybody that came through the door, I grabbed them and made them buy memberships, even if they didn't know what memberships they are buying. So we got some memberships. The library is also working on updating their plan of service. The plan of service is the strategic plan of the library. It's a document that's mandated by the provincial government. Like you have to do that to get provincial funding. Our current plan of service, actually, I think it is still valid for, I think, 2 more years at least. But we are actually, because we are seeing some new trends in terms of numbers, in terms of services, we are going to update that plan of service again. I think around January, maybe we will look at it and we will update it. From there, I'm going to go to Shortgrass Library Systems. I sit on that board as well. And we recently, again, approved our 2025 and 2026 budgets. And this is important for us from a city perspective also, because that determines how much money the Shortgrass Library System levies from the city. So actually for the 2025, there will be an increase of 1.5%. And then for the year 2026, there will be a 3% increase in that requisition from the library. It's per capita. So for 2025, it will be $5.04, and for 2026, it will be $5.19. Just a reminder that about 4 years ago, in 2021, the Shortgrass Library System took a reduction in their budget, 5% reduction in their budget, and that really impacted, made the budget much more leaner and not a lot of wiggle room. So now they are just trying to catch up to where they were even around 2021. And the big change in the requisition this year is the census number from 2021 was finally approved. So the requisition next year is actually going to be based on that 14,924 residents of Brooks, because it takes them that long to take the federal census and approve it provincially, and then use that number provincially. I think in September we met in Irvine. The Shortgrass Library System the board tries to move around and have the board meeting in different libraries. In September we met actually in Irvine. They have this very little, very small, but very, very nice library. Again, you visit other libraries and other resources, and then you are amazed with what you have in your own community. I think it's maybe this room. So we were there for September. Finally, Safe Communities Committee. As you may know, we have changed our meeting schedules or meeting requirements by bylaw few months ago, and we moved it to 6 times per year, I believe, but we are actually meeting bi-monthly. So a lot going on with that committee. I applaud the Safe Communities facilitator. She's doing a lot in the community. I just put few things here. Presentations to schools, to communities. They did this new. They built this new presentation called "Welcome to Canada" that they are doing in BCIS with the language schools in the community. The car seat clinics that they used to do is now by appointment only, because there isn't that much people coming to the regular ones that they used to do every month. They do detachment visit for schools. There was a number of elementary schools kids that went to the detachment. During the summer, they did their annual barbecue. They did their annual game as well. Lots of community engagement. They have few initiatives that are actually very good initiatives in terms of safety and crime prevention. So, for example, they have a bike registry program. The bike registry program where you can actually register. I didn't know that bikes have, you know how cars has this number called the N whatever number. So bikes also have similar number. You can register your bike, and then if your bike is stolen or lost, they can find it for you. And not they can find it, but they will find. If they find it, they will know whose bike it is. They have crime prevention through environmental design. They come to your business or and maybe tell you maybe you need a light here, or you need a better entrance from this side or that side. These are things that you can do in your business. They will come and consult with you as a business owner, and they will do that for you. They have this program where you can register your own door camera on your street. So if there is something happening on your streets, they know where are the cameras, and they can go and request access to those cameras. Not that your camera will be always monitored, but that when something happens on your street, they can come in, they can request that access to your camera. So a lot of programs to fight crimes and prevent crimes before they even happen. Their annual Youth Police Academy is happening again in February this year, February 3rd to 7th. Information is at the schools, and people are now welcome to connect with them to register. There was an event that they did at the JBS, I think sometime in October. I actually was there. It was called The Impact of One Decision. It was done. It was around drinking and driving. It was very impactful. Like I was there in the back, and I could. And they brought the high school kids from the whole region, from Brooks Composite, from Bassano, from Dutchess, all of the high schools in the grasslands, and I could see the impact on the kids while sitting there and listening. It was so quiet that you could hear a drop. It was a very moving, very inspiring speaker. She took a tragedy in her own life and made it into a passion in a cause that she works for. She travels around the country and speaks on the impact of a one decision, just drinking and driving one day, and then impacting your life forever. So another wonderful event in our community. So lots. I was going through the list. There is much more than this I can share. But if you want more information, you can connect with our Safe Communities facilitator, doing a lot of work. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Okay, moving to Councillor Jessica. You attended the Affordability Roundtable.
Yeah, it was held in Medicine Hat at the Provincial Building, and Premier Smith and Affordability Minister Neudorf were in attendance. The minister chaired the meeting. as a very large, diverse group attended, so they had very good turnout, and including businesses and institutions as well as municipal representatives. And Brooks Newell area was well represented as well. So there are people from a number of different backgrounds attending from this area. In the introduction, the statement was made that money is not the solution. I would kind of amend that to say maybe that money alone is not the solution, but I think money is part of it. They did comment on electricity subsidies are very expensive and don't solve the problem. Need to deal with construction and distribution costs. That's the way the system works now. That increased food costs are related to higher energy costs, and the carbon tax impacts food, education, and policing. Then we went into 4 questions. The first one, what are the top affordability issues? And one of the first things that was brought up was the Brooks rental increases. And the response was that we need more supply to bring down prices rather than rent controls. But it was stated that renters in some renters in Brooks are not being given notice on these increases, which have been substantial in some cases. And they said a staged process for increases is needed. And there are legislation about notice in the province. And if they're not getting it in some places, that needs to be resolved. So the government will follow up, and there will be enforcement if needed on that aspect of it. Newbrook Lodge commented that their costs are going up and they can't pass them on to seniors, so they must increase the requisition. And the Premier responded that the province is behind on seniors housing. They're currently short 3,500, and they'll be 12,000 short by 2030. And they've been in communication with manufactured home builders to look at as if that might be part of the solution. The healthcare wait times came up, and it was suggested that they might be reduced by using an activity-based funding model, so that the money goes to where things are actually being done and where there's successes. So the government is looking into that. And they also suggested the possibility of funding surgery abroad when it can't be done here in a timely manner. And food banks everywhere are very busy. The one was experiencing a 440% increase in demand and is starting to include students. Second question was on issues in creating and maintaining jobs. And one of them was how to find jobs for less skilled or educated. The short contract terms make attraction and retention difficult. And so they're looking at reallocating funding for better outcomes. And the minister commented that the federal government is not putting funds where they're needed. There were quite a few child care facilities represented, and they mentioned that the costs are capped, so they can't increase the pay, and then they lose the staff. And the Premier said that child funding should be based on actual family incomes. So that's on their radar. And something maybe a little bit more local concern, problems with process for approving foreign credentials. And the Premier commented that the requirement for Canadian work experience is a hurdle, and alternatives are being discussed to that. Then we went on to changes in obtaining everyday essentials that are happening in your community. And so, of course, everyone is experiencing increasing costs of housing, utilities, and food. The Premier did, the needs of the handicapped or the challenge did come up, and the Premier stated that they need degrees of support for the handicapped. Not all are severely affected or affected to the same degree. And once you're onto that system, it's hard to get off, even if it's no longer needed. So she suggested maybe they should be introducing some kind of partial and short-term supports. The food banks came up again, and again the idea that on these programs to provide support based on not the goals, but actually on the outcomes. And the last session was ideas and open mic, and one was the physician attraction strategies have been quite successful, and maybe they should be applied to other professions and trades where we have shortages. Make it easier for food producers to sell directly to consumers, and the Brooks Farmers Market was part of the discussion at the meeting. And a representative of the EID was there, and he commented that the EID does have some ideas and solutions for affordability for producers and consumers. So hopefully those will be available or coming forth. So a lot of brainstorming going on, a lot of good discussion, a lot of questions, and hopefully some solutions will come out of it.
Okay, I was going to ask you about, and then maybe Councillor Wardrop can delve into this one too with FCSS. Yeah, I just want to make sure for the rental increases, what are the rules? Is it 3 months you have to give? I don't know what the rules
Yes,
are.
that's what they said,
But-
3 months.
But there seems to be a gap there. I think people might not know that you have to give 3 months. So I think maybe there has to be an education process out there that your rent cannot be increased without 3 months' notice on that. And I don't know if you want to bring that up to FCSS, just to get that message out there, because, I mean, if people are not abiding by this rule, I think they should be taken to task on that, on that there too, so, yeah. Okay.
I had a
Comment?
quick question. You mentioned peoples with disabilities. Are you talking about the AISH funding? Was that a response to the cutbacks on
that's a
AISH?
big part of it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Councillor Idris?
I'm not sure if that is a way to go around that notice, but something I heard in the community here is that people are now asked to sign a 6-month lease rather than the 1-year lease. So then at the end of the 6 months, I can just raise the rent, and it will be a new lease. I'm not renting it. I'm not raising it within the 6 months. I'm raising the rent because you are signing a new lease, right?
Yeah, I don't know, yeah. I think you'd almost have to talk to a lawyer or maybe somebody with a little background on that, Councillor Wardrop.
Is this something that could, and maybe Deputy CAO Amanda Peterson could answer this question? Would this be something that could be brought maybe to Brooks Housing Society, as our executive director Victoria Mulbauer also sits on that, and then we've got Newell Housing CAO, and then that would be something to maybe, and then FCSS could potentially assist in a more community-wide education. But yeah, would that be something that would be best brought to your board?
Thank you. So to Councillor Wardrop, that is something that Brooks Housing Society actually had discussion on this morning during their meeting. So we are very well aware of it. And there is something that will be worked on as relates to that situation that's happening in Brooks.
Okay, Councillor Jessica?
Yeah, and I also believe there are some kind of regulations on how many times you can increase it in a year, and that could be another reason for the 6-month lease
The
that
lease, yeah.
Councillor Juice referred to.
Okay, we know there's an issue out there, so hopefully we can kind of solve that there too. So, Councillor Wardrop.
I have an unrelated comment, but just when we had our CMP presentation and we had our new Sonari employee, I did send a quick message to Corporal Sharon McCready. I meant to ask when she was here, but time slipped by, how this came about, and I just wanted to shout out to our own RCMP detachment, because this new position is a result of our own detachment's advocacy for Brooks on our behalf. So Corporal McCready said that she'd mentioned numerous times the service gap for victims that we have here in Brooks, and also the transportation. That we lack that service. And so the Sonari Center found a grant, they wrote that grant, and now this is, as a result, now we have this this position that seemed, from what I understand, sounds like an indefinite position. So I just wanted to thank our local detachment. They do a lot of advocacy for people in Brooks, and I just wanted to make sure everyone knew.
No, yeah, very excellent point there. Councillor Goodenough.
It is exciting. I'm just curious. So is this now a city-funded position, or was it, sorry, who did you say it was through?
So the Sonari Center, from what I understand, they worked it into their budget after this initial grant. So they have a Brooks position because we would be our citizens were using that service, and so now we have the transportation, and we don't have to. We kind of cut out that middle person. So, yeah, that's what I understand.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. You need a mover for this motion here that the 2025 council remuneration report be accepted as information. Councillor Jessica. Okay, Manager of Administration, Amy Romans.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. The city's council remuneration committee policy mandates that a citizens committee review mayor and council remuneration prior to a municipal election and make any recommendations for changes. The report that is attached was presented at the last council committee meeting and outlines the recommendations, including increasing the salary for mayor and councillors to be closer to the average of the comparable municipalities, changing the meal allowance to align with CRA recommendations, and providing council members with a membership to the JBS Canada Centre. The financial implications for this increase, there are some. However, the salaries don't come into effect until November 1st, 2025. So the initial increase, $10,000 for the mayor and $5,000 per councillor, that amount is substantially lower for 2025. And it is administration and the committee's recommendation that council accept the report, and there will be two motions following this one to approve the policies.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Just want to point out a couple things too, and I want to clarify that this was a citizen committee. Nobody on this council was on that committee, so it was decided by the citizens of Brooks and nobody here. We had no input whatsoever for that. Go ahead.
Through the chair to Mayor Petrie, there are two members of the community and one past member of council, and all of the committee members have to sign a document that states they won't be running in the 2025 election.
Yeah, and I think you pointed out too, and I just want to make it clear too, that this council here will not be affected by that. It will not take effect until after the municipal election of October of 2025 there. So thank you for your work on this one, and it's nice to get it done a year in advance too there. So, okay. To the motion, all those in favor? Carried. You need a mover for this motion here, the policy L001007L, entitled Reimbursement of Expenses Policy, be approved. Councillor Nesbitt. Do we have to do anything more on this one, or this just goes back to that we just have to approve these motions here? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Need a mover for this motion here, that policy F002025E, entitled Employee Appreciation and Wellness Policy, be approved. I need a mover for that motion. Councillor Wardrop. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Those were the only two there, right? Yep, okay, perfect. Okay, need a mover for this motion here, that December 3rd, 2024 be hereby proclaimed as International Day for Persons with Different Abilities in the City of Brooks. Who's making that motion? Councillor Goodenough. Okay, normally we'd have inclusion coordinator Robin Clausen here, but filling in today is Director of Planning and Community Development Lisa Tiffin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for filling in.
Yeah. Through the chair to mayor and council, each year December 3rd is recognized internationally as the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. So this day, which was originally established by the United Nations way back in 1992, serves as a reminder of our commitment to creating a more inclusive world that respects and celebrates the abilities of all individuals. This year's International Day of Persons with Different Abilities, staff is actively developing an initiative and event that will bring our community together to celebrate and uplift individuals with different abilities. We have budgeted up to $1,000 to be spent on these events and initiatives, and these funds are allocated from the Inclusion Department. So staff is recommending that the City of Brooks officially recognize December 3rd as International Day of Persons with Different Abilities.
Okay, any questions to the motion? All those in favor? Carried. Need a mover for this motion here, that the week of November 18th to the 24th, 2024 be hereby proclaimed as Living Wage Week in the City of Brooks. Making the motion, Councillor Wardrop. Okay, go ahead.
So last year, the City of Brooks joined the Alberta Living Wage Network, which celebrates Living Wage Week each year by announcing the newly established living wage rates for the participating communities across the province. So a living wage, unlike a minimum wage, is the hourly wage a worker needs to earn in order to cover basic expenses and fully participate and thrive in their community. So it's an individual community gets a different living wage, and it is based on data that's collected directly from our community, which includes costs such as shelter, locally collected rent prices, locally collected food prices, transportation, childcare, clothing, healthcare, tuition, and other essentials. So it's locally relevant wage, and for this year, the City of Brooks has been calculated as $18.50. This living wage, along with the living wages for all the participating communities across Alberta, were officially announced today through participation in Living Wage Week. Some communities saw their living wage increase, while others, such as Brooks, saw a decrease. So some considerations when reviewing and considering why this may have happened is that childcare costs have decreased significantly thanks to the newly introduced childcare affordability grant. Electricity costs have also dropped with lower regulated electricity rates, and clothing and footwear expenses are lower than they were in previous years. The network uses Statistics Canada data, and the data coming out of post-pandemic and within the pandemic indicates a reduced household spending on clothing and footwear. So with these considerations in mind, most members of the network saw a living wage decrease, but due to extreme rent increases in some communities, some of those communities saw an actual living wage increase because the decrease in costs were actually offset by the increase in rents. So following the release of Brooks's living wage, we as a team in the Planning and Development Department will be encouraging local employers to join the movement and become certified living wage employers. To receive this certification, employers must commit to paying their employees at least the living wage for Brooks. Currently, there's over 100 living wage employers across the province, and 2 of them are right here in our community, Knoll Housing and the Spec Association. So it's really great that those employers have stepped up to the plate. Another thing that the City of Brooks uses our living wage for is within the rural renewal stream. When endorsing a candidate for a job in the City of Brooks, the job has to pay at least the living wage, so as we're not setting up a newly recruited person to live in poverty. So the recommendation at this time is that Council proclaim November 18th to the 24th as Living Wage Week in the City of Brooks.
Okay, nice that it went down here. I mean, less expensive to live. I think I was listening to, I think in Calgary today when they released theirs was about $24, almost $25 an hour. So what it does to me is it's cheaper to live here than what it is in Calgary. So yeah, Councillor Goodenough.
Sorry, I'm just looking. I didn't see. Is the county involved?
Through the chair to Councillor Goodenough. No, the county's not a member of the network.
No.
So most of the communities that participate are urban communities because it's a little bit easier to collect the data for it. Any of the data essentially that the County of Newell would collect on their own behalf would be collected in Brooks. Like they would have to get their food prices from us, their childcare prices. They may see a little bit higher transportation, but it's extremely relevant for Brooks, and it's quite relevant for our surrounding rural neighbors as well.
Be very interesting to have JBS, our largest employer, on this and see where their living wage is at. But yeah, just curious.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Well, what's their wage start at there? I don't.
Well, I think almost about $21 or $22 an hour, so they would be above
They should be on? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I see what you're saying. Yeah, put them on there, exactly. Yeah, good point. Okay, Councillor
Question?
Woodruff.
Yeah, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but do you recall what the last year's living, it was $19 something, wasn't it?
Through the chair to Councillor Wardrop, 1910.
Yeah, so this is, it's significantly lower. Hopefully, even people like organizations, companies that were maybe approached last year, like this is really doable, right? This is significant lowering in terms of wage. So, yeah, thank you for clarifying that. 1910.
Okay, yeah, Councillor Idris, do you have a question?
My first question was on how does an employer become certified as a living wage employer?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Dries. The first step would be to contact the Living Wage Network coordinator. There's a team in Edmonton with an economist on staff that helps with the calculations and helps onboard employers. There is a small annual fee, and it's based on how many employees that organization has. So what they do is they have to just fill out a couple of pieces of paperwork. Sometimes the actual wage itself you can also utilize benefits like non-mandatory health benefits can go towards the living wage as well. So for example, if an employer only pays $18.25 as the starting wage, but they offer additional add-on healthcare benefits or a pass to a local rec facility, that sort of thing, that would actually increase what their wage would be, their total compensation. So they can still be considered as a living wage employer. So the first step is they would reach out to us or to the living wage coordinator in Edmonton and just kind of fill out a little bit of paperwork declaring what they actually pay.
So do you do some promotion to employers locally to encourage them to get on that network?
Yeah, we have in the past year, the Economic Development Department did kind of reach out to a couple of different employers, and that's how the Spec Association and Newell Housing found out about the opportunity.
Then I just did a quick calculations based on a 40-hour week. So it's actually $38,480. And then I read the statement here about being able to participate in the community. This is still like, it's still the basics, right? Like it's still like just your rent and your food, like it's not being able to, for example, participate in recreations and in events and entertainment.
Correct. It's still very much, it's a poverty reduction initiative. So it is meant to identify where the poverty line is in our community. So you're not, scraping by and utilizing services and assistance in the community. This is what it would costs to live in the community. But there are additional considerations for things like tuition. So if an individual, like an adult, not necessarily a child, wanted to take some upgrading courses at the local college or some language courses, that sort of thing, those are considered as well. So it's not just, food on the table and electricity paid. There's also some additional extended education things considered as well as transportation. There are some members of the community that would be paid below that living wage that wouldn't even afford a vehicle or the insurance and gas, that sort of thing. So this living wage takes into consideration owning a vehicle, putting gas, insuring it, that sort of thing. So yeah.
They would have to be very good at
very good at saving.
Yeah. Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, need a mover for this motion here, that the monies credited in the 2024 budget in regards to land sales and off-site levies be contributed to the appropriate reserve. Who's making the motion on this one here? Councillor Goodenough. And Director of Finance, Bill McKinnon.
Through your worship, before you is the third quarter variance report. And that includes variance reports related to the operating budget, and variance is related to the city's capital program. The format of the reports have been amended to provide council additional information. Specifically, we've counterized the budget, so council on a go-forward basis, when they see the variance report, we'll see here's where we expect it to be at this period of time, here's where we actually are. Previously, it was compared to the year-to-date budget. Similarly, on the capital side, financial information on the projects was provided, but we've enhanced that reporting the council to provide other non-financial activities related to a capital project, such as has it been tendered, is it awarded, where is it in the construction phase. So you'll see that additional information in the capital report that's before you today. Before we go on, I'd just like to thank Kathy Slaney, our Supervisor of Financial Planning, and Sheanne, our financial analyst, who reformatted the reports and did a wonderful job, and hopefully council will appreciate the new format. So that's the major changes. So as these reports come forward, the format won't be changing significantly, but the purpose of the report is really the report on the operating budget performance to date, to review the status of all the approved capital programs, and to provide key supplementary information on key financial indicators for the municipality. So you see the mayor's read out the two motions. These items flow through the operating budget, but are not really related to the operating budget. So we need council's authority to do the correct accounting treatment for them. So under the Municipal Government Act, municipalities must approve a balanced operating and capital budget. On the capital side, it has to be fully funded, and that's what they call balanced. So that basically means the city's revenue inflows must match its outflows, and the municipalities are not allowed under legislation to budget for a deficit. So the operating budget summary by function is before you in Appendix A. More importantly, by function, it provides council a high-level view. Where did we overspend it? Was it in salaries? Was it in materials and supplies? What were the major revenue inflows related to the variance? Was it resulting from one-time investment returns, or is it from franchise fees? So that's why the report is presented by function. That is supplemented by information that mirrors that in Appendix B, which is by department. This report, being the first formatted one on this basis, has focused detailing the variances by function. Again, it looks like on the tax supported side, we're projecting a surplus of $876,000 at year end, and that is prior to adjustments. So what do I mean prior to adjustments? Well, there's certain transactions that have happened that are artificially increasing the surplus. So we have booked revenues such as sale of city land, off-site levies that weren't budgeted for. So those non-budgeted revenue inflows, we have other policies that say if these issues happen, we need to move them to the appropriate reserve. Those require specific council resolutions. So that's why we're seeking those resolutions in this report today. But if you look at the overall surplus variance, dollar-wise, it looks like a big number, but it's less than 3% of the total operating budget. So if you're having a variance of that small, it may result in a significant dollar amount, but it's mainly attributed to two favorable items. The first item being our interest rate returns. We've had fairly positive cash flows this year, and that has allowed the municipality to accrue additional interest, and that number is in the $500,000 range, so it is a significant number. That's good for this year, but as council may have noticed, interest rates are declining, and our returns for the next year or two will also be declining accordingly because of the reductions in interest rates. Staffing of the municipality is always a challenge. There will always be staff turnover and the like, and we have a favorable savings in our staffing budget of around $230,000. There's numerous details on the various revenue expenditure variances. I'm not going to go through them all, but basically on the revenue side, there were some very positive things, such as franchise agreement revenues came in higher, and that's dependent. If you look at our franchise fees, if we have a cold winter, we're going to generate probably franchise fees above what we budgeted. If we have very mild winters, we probably will not generate those revenues. Again, I mentioned interest earnings. That's the big item. There's various draws from reserves. But those draws from reserves are challenging to describe because a lot of them relate to conditional grants that the city has received. So we have a grant. Our revenues may be over budget because we have a grant, but on the other side, we're going to have expenditures that weren't in the budget. So mid-year, as administration applies for grants, you'll see this quandary of, well, we got more revenue here, but we have more expenditures that weren't in the budget. Council generally is apprised that the grants have been received, but we do not make formal budget adjustments for those items. So that highlights the operating budget. On the expenditure side, again, the major expenditure variance is salaries and wages. There were some unfavorable variances, contractual services. Again, council through the audit process, we have to comply with PSAP auditing requirements. There were some new requirements put in 223 that relates to asset retirement obligations. It's really boring stuff, so I'm not going to get into that with you. But there was additional one-time audit costs that were incurred in the fiscal year. There are some favorable, unfavorable variances. So if you look, for instance, under materials and supplies, we overspent the fuel budget by $32,000 related to the airport. However, that's been offset by additional revenues in the airport. So you have these net effects where additional revenue may come in, and it's offset by additional expenditures. So that is on the tax rate side. We mirror that presentation on the rate supported side. So the rate supported being water, sewer, garbage mainly. How did they fare? It's council's policy that they should be self-sustaining, i.e. the revenues related to those operational activities should cover the expenses. So again, we're showing a favorable variance at year end. And likewise, administration will be recommending that any favorable variance related to the rate supported budget be moved to those reserves that support those activities. And that would lessen the impact of future rate increases and or fund additional capital expenditures in those program areas. So the last table in the report is Appendix C, which is the capital project summary. Again, currently City of Brooks has 40 projects underway. Appendix C attempts to detail where they are, what departments this project started, what are the costs incurred to date, what are the projected year-end cost or projected project costs for each of those budgets, and supplementary notes. So given that this is the first attempt and we're going back and forth with departments, you'll see as you receive these quarterly reports, the comments and project variances will have a lot more supplementary information that council may be interested on any particular project. You know, where is it? You know, has it been tendered? Is tender awarded? Is it at 60% completion, or where does it sit? And where is it going to finish? So through the mayor, if there's any questions, I'd be pleased to answer.
Okay, any questions? Okay, to the motion then. All those in favor? You need a mover for this motion here too, that the 2024 third quarter variance report be accepted as information. Councillor Jessica. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. Okay, need a mover for this motion here, that bylaw number 2431 being a bylaw of the City of Brooks in the province of Alberta to amend bylaw 1312 being the Southeast Sector Area Structure Plan be introduced and read first time. A mover on that motion, Councillor Nesbitt. Okay. Director of Planning and Community Development, Lisa Tiffin.
Thank you very much, Mayor Petrie. Just filling in for our senior planner, Gavin Scott from Orsk, as the highways were a bit too slippery for him to travel here from Lethbridge. So, through the Chair to Mayor and Council, Bylaw 2431 proposes to amend the area structure plan in the southeast sector. Specifically, it looks to amend Map 4 at the location legally known as Plan 0512323 Block 6, Lot 1, which is currently designated as residential multifamily, but we'd like to change it to highway commercial. As per the requirements of the MGA, a public hearing must be held prior to council's decision on such a bylaw. So just for a little bit of site context, this is about a 2-acre plot of land. It's residentially designated property. It lies just north of the Francophone School, but all other adjacent land is currently vacant. The adjacent land to the north is designated as highway commercial, but other land to the south and to the west is residential multifamily. The plan for the land is to build a multi-unit housing with commercial on the bottom and then apartments on the top. So the recommendation is that council completes first reading on bylaw 2431 and sets December 2nd, 2024 for a public hearing.
Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Need a mover for this motion here that a public hearing be held December 2nd, 2024 at 5 p.m. to gather public input regarding bylaw number 2431. Mover on the motion, Councillor Wardrop. Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Need a mover on this motion here that bylaw number 2432 being a bylaw in the city of Brooks in the province of Alberta to amend bylaw 1412 being the land use bylaw be introduced and read first time. Mover on that motion, Councillor Wardrop again. You're fast. Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, moved, I need a mover on this motion here. Councillor Jessica. That a public hearing be held December 2nd, 2024 at 5 p.m. to gather public input regarding bylaw 2432. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, I think our reporter is not here, but she did text me a question here. The city most likely will be increasing taxes this year and into next year while everyone else is being asked to do more with less. Why is this appropriate for council to accept a raise? Yeah, that's a good point. Ask the new council because really, what we did, this is a citizens committee. They determine it, and it's not up to us. You know, the new council that comes in November of 2025 can accept it. Good point, Councilor Nesbitt there. Okay. I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Idris. Moved that the meeting adjourn at 5:42 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Okay.